Okay, extremely short one. Hopefully. Like a half an hour long one. Yeah, funny. Second ice cream? No.
But if you're in
Where can I explain testosterone ads? Tom Nichols.
This is a vial of my blood, which my wife has just taken from my arm. But how much testosterone is in this?
See, over the past 9 months or so, I've been inundated with adverts from clinics and companies trying to sell me prescriptions of testosterone.
And especially in 2025, as men's testosterone levels are naturally on the decline and have been for many, many years, it's okay to talk about testosterone replacement therapy.
Low testosterone, they tell me, is on the rise. It's holding men back. It's a hidden health crisis.
Supplementing the testosterone that my own body produces with a little bit extra in the form of a gel or injection can help make my body stronger, happier, more virile,
Decrease my body fat.
increase my facial hair growth, improve my focus, give me more energy.
The list goes on.
Brain fog, depression, all that shit. Like, out the door.
But testosterone replacement therapy, as it's known, has become an increasingly mainstream affair. It's not only online clinics that are talking up testosterone, but plenty of influencers too.
Testosterone replacement therapy, hormone replacement therapy, I started doing all that when I was 40. It makes a big difference.
Makes a big difference.
Yeah.
For the men who really need it, the impact of these drugs can be revolutionary.
We've had experience with men in the clinic where they feel like their lives are transformed by having this drug.
But is the need quite as widespread as the podcasts and sponsored search results would suggest?
Or are some individuals and companies within this niche industry simply preying upon vague symptoms and men's insecurities to turn a profit?
There is a financial incentive for a lot of clinics to get you on to treatment because that's how they make their money.
In an effort to find out, I've spent months wading through treatment guidelines and advertising laws, quizzing scientists and doctors, and even going through the process of getting my own testosterone levels checked to find out whether TRT really could be making all men stronger, happier, healthier, or whether it's all kind of just one big scam.
So strap in, lads, let's go. Oh, and by the way, this video is sponsored by Private Internet Access VPN, but a bit more about them later. I guess we need to kick things off by clarifying exactly what it is these ads are trying to sell.
I always start with an sorry, I'll try not to do that.
That's okay.
This is Daniel Kelly, senior lecturer in biochemistry at Sheffield Hallam University. Dan has done a lot of research into testosterone and testosterone treatments, as well as having written publicly about their leap into the mainstream. So he seemed like just the guy to give us a 101 on what testosterone actually does.
Testosterone is the main male sex hormone. That doesn't mean that it's only produced in males, because females have it as well, but it is a hormone that is released from the testes, and it has these really wide-ranging effects all over the body. One of the main roles of testosterone is that it's involved with the development of secondary sexual characteristics in males, things like the lowering of our voice, the descending of the testes, and all them kind of secondary male characteristics that we're used to.
It's very likely that some of you will already have learned about these roles of testosterone in school. But Dan explained that one of the things which has really revolutionized testosterone replacement therapy in recent years has been the discovery that testosterone does a whole lot more than simply make voices and balls drop.
The research that we're doing actually expands much further beyond that, and we're seeing how testosterone can affect all systems in the body, really, to do with cardiovascular disease, diabetes, mental health. They're really wide-ranging.
In fact, the aspect of all of this which first got me hooked on the topic was the fact that the current wave of testosterone ads and clinics don't just target men looking to get swole. Let's be honest, if they had, I probably never would have been served with any of them, and you wouldn't currently be watching this video.
Instead, the increasing body of evidence that men's testosterone levels can affect their mood, energy levels, sleep, and focus, as well as its foundational role in making things work down below, has led to pharmaceutical companies and private health clinics casting a much wider net.
I love what they're about, I love what they do. I've met with all of the team, and the direction of my own life and millions of other men's, it was a no-brainer.
If you read through some of these companies' websites, browse the TRT forums, or listen to any of the more enthusiastic podcast bros speak on this topic, you'll quickly find yourself under the impression that testosterone is almost like a vitamin, and that quite a wide spectrum of men would benefit from a bit of additional testosterone.
After all, who hasn't been sad or tired or unfocused every once in a while? The question I wanted to answer with this video then was whether this upswing in testosterone clinics and ads and general discourse is a genuine response to a pre-existing underserved gap in medical provision, or whether it's simply another example of using men's insecurities to try and sell us more stuff.
And after a bit of thought, it became clear that the only way to make this video in a genuinely earnest, good faith way was to sign up for a bit of testing myself.
Okay, I think it's worth saying up front that I have no symptoms which would have otherwise led me to seek out this particular treatment. Which isn't to say that I don't have low testosterone or high testosterone or whatever. It's simply to say that I wouldn't otherwise have sought this out had I not been suddenly surrounded by adverts telling me that my testosterone levels are something that I should be worried about. And as I go through any surveys or questions that I'm asked as I go through this process, that's something that I'm going to be quite honest about. Let's see what happens.
As do many companies which sell testosterone testing and treatment, the website I used provided a questionnaire to allow me to find out whether TRT might be the right path for me. It's worth saying this wasn't required, but it was reasonably prominent on the site. As someone with no actual symptoms, I was curious as to what direction it would point me in.
So first question, how much do I know about testosterone replacement therapy, TRT? I obviously know a little bit. We've done a decent amount of research around this video. However, the one thing where I'm not going to be truthful is I'm going to go in blind, right? I'd rather it gave me more information that I already know than that it assumes some knowledge that I have which I don't. Let's go for nothing else. Do I have a decrease in libido, right? Sex drive. Do I have a lack of energy?
Here we
I mean,
go.
like sometimes, right? We all get tired sometimes, but I wouldn't say I have a lack of energy that feels medical. Have I noticed a decrease in strength and or endurance? A low base rate for strength.
I won't bore you with my lengthy explanations for every answer I gave. Needless to say, I answered no to everything, despite the fact the questions were somewhat vague.
Am I sad and or grumpy? I guess sometimes I get sad and or grumpy. When I watch a sad film, I get sad.
The only question which didn't come with an option to answer no asked me to pick which of the promised benefits of TRT I was most interested in, for which I tried to simply pick the most generic.
I just click continue. No, I have to select one. Improved mood. It's always nice to have an improved mood, isn't it? Okay, but let's click, and I presume this is going to tell me what it thinks. Thank you for completing the questionnaire. We're assessing if I'm suitable for... I think we've already had... Okay. Inconclusive results. There wasn't enough information in your response to rule out low testosterone. And then it gives me the option to order a blood test. So, I mean, that's... Like, that's true, I guess, in that ruling things out is difficult. I did effectively answer no to everything in the questionnaire. I don't know where I sit on that, because that feels, yeah, you can't rule anything out, I guess. It does feel, if you've got a questionnaire on your website that suggests it's going to tell you whether or not you should continue down the path, or whether it might be worth getting a blood test, if you answer no to all the questions and it sort of tells you, well, maybe you should get the blood test, that feels a bit off.
From there, the site ushered me
Let's switch to their game.
seamlessly to the checkout page to order a test. There was even a pleasant surprise along the way.
Oh, 38% off if I order now within 9 hours and 18 minutes. If I order my treatments today. Okay, up until now it felt quite professional in this. Okay, so I'll have a discount. Can I just get a discount on the test?
So I handed over my credit card details, popped in my address, and tried not to think too much about the prospect of having to stab myself in the finger come test day.
It's important to say up top that for those men who really need it, testosterone replacement therapy can be absolutely life-changing.
That's been around for a long time, testosterone therapy, and for men who are truly testosterone deficient or hypogonadal, can be absolutely transformative.
This is Dr. Ben Davis, a doctor and therapist who specializes in sexual medicine. And to clarify, when he uses the term hypogonadal there, he's using the proper medical term for a man with abnormally low levels of testosterone.
And that's what we then call testosterone deficiency or hypogonadism. Men who've been really struggling with symptoms take treatment, and within kind of certainly 3 to 6 months, see a massive change in their symptoms. And so that's why it can be so powerful. And you hear these stories of people whose lives have been absolutely revolutionized by having treatment.
We've had experience with men in the clinic where they feel like their lives are transformed by having this drug, and their partners as well. It's also a big factor in this. Their partners report real benefits to their relationship because of this. So there is a lot of good that can be done with this.
Proponents of TRT often go much further than simply highlighting its supposed benefits.
Many will argue that GPs, or what some countries call family doctors, are consistently far too reluctant to explore low testosterone as a potential cause of men's ailments. TRT advocates often suggest that men are being needlessly left to suffer, or that they might be being misdiagnosed with other, better-known conditions.
A lot of the symptoms of low testosterone does overlap with depression, and so then a lot of people do get kind of labeled as being depressed.
At times, the attacks on mainstream healthcare professionals can get pretty zesty.
One UK clinic, for instance, accuses doctors who are hesitant to diagnose testosterone deficiency and prescribe TRT as being part of a system which, and I quote, fails to put the patient's health above saving the state healthcare systems or insurance company money.
Some of these arguments do lean towards the conspiratorial. Nevertheless, there does seem to be pretty widespread acceptance, even among some critics of the recent explosion in TRT availability, that many GPs have been a little bit slow on the uptake.
One study published in the Journal for Men's Health last year concluded that there were, quote, barriers at every level that are preventing men from being diagnosed with TD and accessing appropriate treatment.
It's been really, really overlooked. So that whole GP as the gatekeeper thing is the vast majority of GPs don't know about or won't consider testosterone. So there's a lot of men out there who could benefit who are not being treated because it's not considered.
A lot of men have had their symptoms dismissed. There's nothing wrong with them, but there is something going on. And so the rise of kind of private clinics is filling that gap, which the NHS hasn't managed to meet. But also you've had the loss of, certainly in the NHS and in healthcare generally, loss of relationship with a trusted clinician. So you basically have these two extremes of I would say underdiagnosis in the NHS and probably overdiagnosis in the private sector.
A few days later, a box arrived at my door containing a small bounty of medical kit.
I have a few instructions as to things that I need to do that I've been sent. The first being I do it in the morning of a Monday to Thursday. The second being that I'm nice and hydrated in preparation. But the top of my post pile, I have a parcel.
With the test actually in my hands now, it was hard not to feel a little bit apprehensive.
It's definitely been a new thing to worry about. I did go on a run yesterday, which
perhaps
is not completely unheard of, but I do think I was at least partly inspired by the idea that hopefully I wouldn't have because I think intentionally or not, there is a certain like masculine anxiety that some of this stuff plays into, particularly with shit.
Luckily, the instructions asked me to do a couple of exercises to get the blood flowing, which gave me a great opportunity to burn off some of that anxious energy.
This instruction also tells me to run on the spot and swing my arm around.
Just to clarify, my slightly weird run here is mostly me trying to hold my t-shirt down to protect my dignity. Usually I would look much more athletic, I promise.
His shoulder's gonna fall off.
The test instructions also want my t-shirt down. Just to clarify, my slightly weird run here is mostly me trying to hold my t-shirt down to protect my dignity. Usually I would look much more athletic, I promise.
His shoulder's gonna fall off.
The test instructions also wanted me to pop my hand in a bowl of water for 5 whole minutes.
Incredible content.
Any promising lead?
Which is actually quite a long time.
You watch season 2 of Andor yet? I've yet to get to it.
And then came time for the test itself.
So upper line on the collection vial, I need 600 blood units. Oh my goodness, this is quite nerve-wracking. Okay. Didn't love that. Okay, we have blood.
With capillary successfully punctured, I did my best to milk my finger for blood.
23 or what?
The blood is coming. Where's the hole? I've sort of lost the hole now. Okay, the prick was less bad than I thought. It's the bleeding into the tube that's something happened to me quite difficult. Okay, it's over the line.
All that was left to do was package the sample up, pop an address label on the box, and after a quick trip to the post office, sit and await my results.
So in the UK, the units are nanomoles per litre. A normal range for that, well, that's a really good question, actually.
Thank you for permitting. No.
When a blood test like mine gets sent off, there are 2 different units which are used to measure levels, depending on what country you're in.
The US, with its insistence on using imperial units, measures how many nanograms of testosterone there are per deciliter of blood. Countries like the UK, which use sensible units, measure how many nanomoles of testosterone are present per litre of blood.
The real debate, however, surrounds how many nanomoles per litre or deciliter should count as blood.
In the UK's National Health Service, men who have symptoms of testosterone deficiency need to first see their GP, who, if they think that low testosterone is the most likely explanation, will order a blood test to explore whether the patient would benefit from being referred to a specialist, usually at the local hospital. In most areas of the UK, the benchmark for what level is considered concerning is a little over 8 nanomoles per litre, although there are some that use even lower benchmarks. At both hospitals in Bristol, for example, what's considered normal can extend as low as 6.
Private TRT clinics, however, tend to suggest much higher levels.
In our research, we've seen clinics stating that so-called optimal levels, which is an idea we'll come back to later, don't start until 17, 18, or even 20 nanomoles per litre.
These extremes, however, can make it sound like there's a lot more discord than there actually is. Over the past few years, there's been a real push on the part of doctors and endocrinologists to standardize the levels used for the diagnosis and treatment of TD.
Just last year, members of the Society for Endocrinology joined with the Association of Clinical Biochemistry and Laboratory Medicine to publish a joint position paper, in which they suggested that men with testosterone levels lower than 8 nanomoles per litre were likely to have testosterone deficiency, with a grey area between 8 and 12, which can be viewed as a kind of threshold. Anyone with a level over 12 is unlikely to have testosterone deficiency, and there is little evidence that TRT would be of benefit with any symptoms that they might have. The more international Endocrine Society takes a slightly different approach, simply suggesting that the lower limit of normal in otherwise healthy, non-obese young men is 9.2 nanomoles per litre.
If I have less than 12, then you'll have a sensitivity to the testosterone receptors not full.
Lucky
and so it's
you.
saying I'm not being stimulated enough, and so you have symptoms. But from 12 up to 25 or up to 30 even, it just plateaus the response in terms of, certainly in terms of kind of erections and also a bit to do with sex drive.
Okie dokie. So, I am a man with emails. I have some testosterone test results to check. I've not looked at these results yet. I found it really hard not to, but I wanted to make sure I did so on camera because I don't know, it is intriguing. And it's weird how much, even sort of coming into this process, not really caring, I sort of do care now. And maybe some of that's because I'm sharing them on camera, okay? This is silly. Let's find out. My total testosterone levels are low. There's a sort of chart thing with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 bars around it. I have 2 bars out of 5. It's not 1 bar out of 5, so that's something, I guess. It then says next step, enhanced blood test and consultation. Interestingly, this doesn't give me any sense of levels on the email, and I can just click buy enhanced blood test, buy that, and I'm away. Hi Tom, your blood test results have been successfully analysed by the independent laboratory at Random. Your total testosterone levels are low. Men like you may experience symptoms such as low energy, low mood, brain fog, poor sleep, reduced muscle mass, and low libido. Based on these results, you're highly likely to benefit from testosterone replacement therapy. To start treatment, the BSSM, that's the British Society for Sexual Medicine, guidelines/regulation require us to complete a venous blood test which checks your overall health and ensures that you are safe to start on treatment. And there it says testosterone level low, free testosterone level suboptimal. But let's go into those and see what we find.
And the full results were confusing.
Okay, so this is really interesting. So, my results say that my testosterone levels are low. My testosterone level is 12.9 nanomoles per litre. It's interesting that the top of the page for more information is a set of tasks, and the first one, which is recommended, is buy enhanced test with consultation. So the very first step is we'd like some more money and we think we should do another test. If I go through to detailed results, I can see them on a bit of a slider. Albumin is absolutely fine. That's higher than halfway through the healthy range, so I'll take that as a win. My testosterone is in a big part of the chart that is low, and then optimal appears to begin at 18. And the green, orange, and then sort of
Any promising leads?
still orange lines very much imply that below 18 is not okay. Going into this, I sort of genuinely didn't, I'm not particularly bothered about what the number is for the purposes of looking cool. I guess we're in for a penny, or a few pennies, and therefore, I guess I'm gonna take this second blood test.
Okay, so I need to apologise, because I've lied to you. I didn't do a blood test for this video. It didn't feel very scientific to get my blood tested once.
So I got tested 3 times.
2, which we'll call Company A and Company B, were from online-only clinics which had been advertising pretty relentlessly at me over the previous 6 months or so. The other, which we'll call Company C, was ordered through the online offering of a popular UK high street farm.
I was partly interested in being able to compare different experiences with different providers, and also interested in being able to compare different test results. And on both counts, the results were pretty fascinating.
So it's worth underlining here that in the UK, as in most countries, testosterone is a prescription-only medication. The only legal way to acquire it is through a registered pharmacist following a prescription from a doctor. And that's because, despite the casual tone with which some influencers and others talk about it, this is a pretty powerful medication which has a significant impact on the bodies of men who use it.
I think historically the worry with testosterone therapy was always either to do with prostate cancer. So prostate cancer is driven through the testosterone receptor. So the first line in treatment in prostate cancer is to take testosterone away. So if you imagine, if you flip that on its head a little bit, if you give somebody testosterone, the fear was that it would increase the likelihood of developing prostate cancer. But now, over about the last maybe 10, 20 years, there's been a lot of studies undertaken that have proved the opposite of this. It's actually, there's no additional risk, and in many cases actually testosterone has a protective effect in the prostate. And then the second risk was always to do with cardiovascular disease.
For some time, there was a fear that adding additional testosterone into men's bodies might increase their risk of strokes and heart attacks.
In 2009, a US trial into whether prescribing testosterone to older men might have helped them to retain their strength and mobility for longer was halted partway through, when it was discovered that nearly a quarter of the participants who had been given TRT had experienced heart problems whilst on the drug.
It's actually called the Tom trial, which is my name. It's fun.
The US Federal Drug Administration quickly stepped in and, in 2015, forced testosterone manufacturers to put a so-called black box warning on their products, warning patients of these risks. They also required TRT manufacturers to pay for a massive study called the TRAVERSE study, a placebo-controlled, double-blind, randomized clinical trial of more than 5,000 men aged between 45 and 80 years of age with confirmed testosterone deficiency. The study concluded that there was no link between TRT and either prostate cancer or an increase in major cardiovascular events. And just this February, the FDA actually revised its labeling requirements to allow companies to remove the mention of heart attacks from its warnings once again.
TRT advocates in the US were over the moon. The Cleveland Clinic, which oversaw the trials, however, was a little more cautious.
The TRAVERSE study did, for example, still find some adverse effects, notably a heightened incidence of atrial fibrillation, pulmonary embolism, and the loss of kidney function. The study also wasn't perfect. Over 60% of both the testosterone and the placebo groups stopped taking their treatments before the study was complete, and the clinic sought to stress that the findings are only accurate for older men with confirmed testosterone deficiency deficiency who are taking testosterone in the form of gel rather than injections.
It's the longest term and the most robust clinical trial that we have, specifically looking at cardiovascular safety. So it's held in high regard. But there was a few sort of problems with it to do with dropout rates of the patients, and there was a bit of an issue with the levels that were achieved of testosterone in the men that were treated. So they were still quite on the lower end of that physiological range that we talked about before.
Let's rewind back to just after I ordered my first blood test, after which I immediately cracked on with ordering 2 more. I've opted not to focus too heavily on specific companies or individuals in this video. Doing so feels like it would distract from the various incentives and cultural forces which shape the entire industry. And indeed, Company B worked on a very similar business model to Company A in offering a wide range of men's health products.
They offer a whole bunch of different treatments and kind of therapies, long-term weight loss, it says here, sexual support, which seems to be some kind of Viagra alternative, testosterone treatments, what we're looking for.
Company B also offered me the opportunity to fill out a symptoms questionnaire, for which I took the same approach as before, answering in the negative to every symptom. The results page here was more reassuring, telling me I probably didn't have anything to worry about and sending me on my way. Although it did give me the option to buy a test anyway should I wish.
Based on your answers, it's unlikely that you're experiencing symptoms of low testosterone. However, if you'd like a thorough understanding of your hormone health, consider our complete hormone blood test. This comprehensive test will give you a clearer picture of your overall health, allowing you to address any imbalances and take control of your wellness.
Company C, the high street chain, didn't offer me a questionnaire at all. In fact, they seemed quite keen for me just to go and see my GP. Nevertheless, they too were quite happy to sell me a test if I was intrigued anyhow.
We can only provide treatment if you are between 18 and 65 years old and are already prescribed this. To initiate testosterone treatment, please speak to your GP. It's
Another path to the truth opens up before me.
Says this test is for total testosterone only. If you have symptoms that might be related to abnormal testosterone levels, we'd still recommend you contact your GP to discuss these, even if your results are normal. Maybe other reasons for your symptoms which need to be explored. Please take if you are happy to continue. There's a lot more of, I don't want to make this an advert. It's just interesting the extent to which they seem to be aware of some of the shortcomings of people ordering stuff.
Emotions
online.
are like a raging
Should I order
torrent
a
that surges
third
through the
test from...
More often than not.
No, and just do the test.
So I got my credit card out once again and ordered 2 more tests. My poor fingers.
So you can do loads of testing, and which loads of companies sell, right? So you can now get tested. You could go and have 1,000 tests if you want. There are loads of companies who will very happily sell you testing. By chance, by just statistics, 1 in 20 of those results will probably be abnormal. That's just how normal variation works. It doesn't mean that's pathological. So the first important thing is, do you have symptoms which warrant testing, which are worrying? But there are lots of men who have a low testosterone who have no symptoms at all. They're completely fine. And that's because the androgen receptor, which is what testosterone binds to, is different, has a different genetic makeup, responds to also different changes in it, which means some men are more sensitive to testosterone than others. So if you don't have symptoms, and we can talk about key symptoms, you don't really need to worry. It's unlikely you've got the disease state, if you like, the testosterone deficiency.
The concept of having testosterone deficiency makes the condition sound quite easy to diagnose. As I mentioned earlier, most hospitals, clinics, and hormone associations have thresholds beneath which they suggest it could be worth considering testosterone replacement therapy. Could, however, is the key word here, because it's worth highlighting that all reputable bodies of hormone experts suggest that blood tests should be used only to confirm or rule out TD in cases where someone is already exhibiting clear and persistent symptoms. This is often not what is being promoted by TRT advocates and adverts online. An investigation published in the American Medical Association's JAMA Network Open journal earlier this year warned that, as we've seen, specialist tests for conditions like TD are increasingly being promoted on social media as something it might be worth getting just in case. Often, the authors added, by people with a financial interest in promoting such tests. This is in spite of the Endocrine Society, perhaps the world's most prestigious authority on hormones, actively recommending against this kind of routine speculative screening.
Which might seem like a strange position to take. Surely it can't hurt to just do a test, right? And yet, overtesting can be inadvisable.
At the most basic level, it costs either you or your country's health service or your insurer money which you possibly didn't need to spend.
I am currently 150 quid down on blood tests, and even if you can afford it, and it's not directly harmful to stick a needle in your finger every once in a while, doing so all the time can simply be a recipe for health anxiety.
I found myself feeling a low rumble of fear about what my results were going to be, despite only having taken these tests for the purpose of this video.
And the reason is if you start doing tests, like I said, like 1 in 20 will be abnormal, even if there's nothing wrong with you. You then have to work out what to do with that abnormal test. Do you investigate? Do you do a biopsy? Do you do further blood tests? Do you raise people's anxiety? So doing tests is not without risk for something which may never have caused you a problem, never caused you disease, but you're going down a medical path as soon as you start testing.
As this paper published in the British Medical Journal in 2024 suggests, at-home tests for conditions like testosterone deficiency.
That's going to be it for the stream. Good luck, fun, thanks